Hello and welcome back to Marvelous Videos. We thought today we'd take a look at our favorite genre of literature, Sword and Sorcery. This type of storytelling revolves around sword-fighting heroes, brutal wizards, and a whole lot of magic and supernaturalism. Starting with the age of Conan the Barbarian or the stories in the greater Marvel universe, there are countless dark, mystical, and power-hungry villains in the world of Sword and Sorcery. Influenced a little by Lovecraftian themes, this style of narrative includes several cosmic elements and was popularized by Robert E. Howard in the early 1930s. Brace yourself, for we're about to enter this realm of dark magic and take a look at the 10 most powerful villains in the history of Sword and Sorcery. Before we get into our list though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us it means everything. Thank you. Let's begin.
Those who have lied and corrupted the earth.
Thulasa Doom. The American author Robert E. Howard came up with the idea of a ghostly evil sorcerer in 1928, which marked the beginning of none other than Thulasa Doom. Intended to be the primary villain of Kull the Conqueror, the King of Valusia, Doom's debut was filled with obstacles. The wizard first appeared in a story about Kull titled Delcarte's Cat, which was published in 1967 after a lot of trouble. However, Doom was not even thought of as the villain of this story. Cathalos was supposed to be the original enemy of Kull, but towards the end of writing it, Howard designed this elder race sorcerer. Finally, Doom was introduced as an impersonation of Cathalos in the story. Howard even altered the title of the story, calling it The Cat and the Skull. This was done mainly for later adaptations and to hint at Doom's arrival. However, this version was turned down by Weird Tales in 1928 and remained unpublished during Howard's lifetime. About 4 decades later, Lancer Books printed the story in 1967. Doom's appearance is bound to give anyone nightmares. Having a skull in the place of a head and eye sockets glowing with devilish flames, he was an embodiment of all things unholy. In Delcarte's Cat, Thulasa Doom tries to attack Kull by manipulating him to enter a forbidden lake, but Kull manages to survive. Doom, who could not be harmed by mortal weapons, manages to escape the wrath of Kull. When Marvel Comics began adapting and publishing the stories of Robert E. Howard, Thulasa Doom was portrayed as an unusual foe of Kull in the pre-cataclysmic age. Later, in the Hyborian Age, he became the main villain of Howard's most iconic barbarian hero, Conan. Issue 16 of Monsters on the Prowl marked Thulasa Doom's entry into the Marvel Universe, and thereafter he became a recurring enemy of both Kull and Conan. As a follower of the Great Serpent and a companion of the Serpent Man, Thulasa Doom's wizardry powers included invisibility, illusion, shapeshifting, and multi-dimensional travel. His weaponry consisted of the Serpent Eye Gem and the Fangs of Damballa, a set of 2 green flame swords. Apart from the comics, Thulasa Doom also featured in the 1982 movie Conan the Barbarian, but here his look resembled another classic adversary of Conan, Tothamon. Though the pre-production designs showed him having a skull face, he actually appeared as a human being with the power to transform into a giant snake. Tothamon. Tothamon was originally created by Robert E. Howard and first appeared in the short story Phoenix on the Sword in 1932. He was depicted as a worshipper of the serpent god Set, inspired by Egyptian mythology. Hailing from Stygia, Tothamon is a fallen sorcerer in the story who poses no real threat to Conan. In fact, Conan never crosses paths with him directly in any of Howard's stories. It was only the later adaptations by L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter that Tothamon rises as an arch-enemy of Conan. In this context, Tothamon has been a foe of Conan in stories like God in the Bowl and Phoenix on the Sword. It was ultimately Marvel Comics that popularized him as a lifelong opponent of Conan and designed him with a ram horn ornamental headgear. He is also a primary character in the Dark Horse comic series, where his appearance is truer to Howard's version and consequently more Egyptian-based. Indeed, the most powerful wizard in Stygia, Tothamon is feared by the Stygian king himself. However, his rise to power as an influential member of the Black Ring of Set is quite a story in and of itself. Born into poverty and abuse, Toth had a friend named Amon who somehow got the chance to become an acolyte of the Stygian heron deity Ibis. Seeing the chance, Toth kills Amon and impersonates him to enter the service of Ibis. However, greedy for power, he goes to the ruins of Acheron and swears allegiance to the serpent god Set and hails the talisman Black Ring of Set. He soon becomes an advisor of the young Stygian king Tesphon and begins pushing the kingdom down a dark path by enlisting several citizens into the cult of Set. Defeating all opponents, including Calanthes, a fellow priest who discovered his true motives, Toth propagated the worship of Set in all of Stygia. Conan and Toth's first face-to-face encounter happened in 1979 in an alternate universe scenario show of Marvel Comics titled What If Conan the Barbarian Walked the Earth Today? However, their rivalrous storyline was explored in much more detail in the issues of Savage Sword of Conan in 1992 after a long-expected confrontation between the two. Often dressed in ceremonial robes and turbans, Tothamon has demonic emerald eyes and wrinkly skin, which testifies that he's been living for hundreds of years. He's a master spellcaster with several magical rituals at his disposal, like commanding snakes and swarms of insects to infect his opponents with fatal venom. Toth can also manipulate the poison to give birth to horrifying creatures from the bodies of the infected victims. He's also a cunning strategist whose power isn't limited to just sorcery. Toth is capable of exploiting the weaknesses of his enemies and turning a person's allies against them by plotting devious schemes. Whatever Tothamon is, a political schemer or devilish wizard, he exists because of the Black Ring of Set, which is powerful enough to bring even him back from the dead. Without it, he's like any other ordinary, vulnerable man. Ztoon of Python. In the ancient town of Acheron, there was a high priest of Set in the city of Python circa 13,000 BC who was known for his blood sacrifices at the Great Serpent's altar. This was none other than Ztoon of Python. In the Marvel Comics lore, he's the brother of Queen Zaltana. Ztoon was the first known sorcerer in history to possess the heart of Ahriman, a barbarian artifact. Ztoon never invoked its power, but guarded it with his life to make sure his enemies could never use the jewel to kill him. Ztoon was introduced in Robert E. Howard's story, Hour of the Dragon, where he's an age-old wizard and the main enemy of Conan. The story revolves around a mature Conan who's now the king of Aquilonia, but has a band of conspirators trying to remove him from the throne and make Valerius the new monarch. Basically, Conan had to kill Valerius's predecessor, Numenides, to claim kingship, and thus many believe the former to be the rightful heir of Aquilonia and Conan to be the usurper. To help remove Conan, the conspirators resurrect Ztoon from a mummified state, resulting in a brutal confrontation between them, which is the main crux of the story. Ultimately, Conan kills the most dangerous wizard ever by driving a sword through him, returning him to his mummy form, and putting him on a chariot to hell. Ztoon is the personification of extreme evil and dark forces with no regard for human life. He's the living proof that absolute power is the cause of corruption. Howard had described him as a tall, naked man filled with lust for power. Ztoon is recognizable by his white skin, dark hair, and glowing eyes. As the greatest mystic of ancient Acheron, Ztoon could cause floods, plagues, and avalanches for mass destruction. Apart from casting illusions and paralyzing anything on contact, Ztoon could also create a magical mist that toyed with one's consciousness. Along with the heart of Ahriman, he also had other tools of witchcraft like the Hand of Nergal, the Sleep Crystal, and the Heart of Tammuz. Though not a recurring foe of Conan, even in the Marvel storylines, which are ideally adaptations and expansions of Howard's original tale, Ztoon was undeniably one of the most evil and powerful wizards Conan ever fought. Sothalante. Believed to be the offspring of a demon and a dancing girl of Zamora, Sothalante is the embodiment of wickedness. He appears as a thin, shaggy man with claw-like fingers hiding under heavy silk ropes. In the Conan verse, he's referred to as the Vulture owing to his cackling voice, and he's a deadly wizard of the Hyborian Age. Since Hyborian kings have always entertained sorcerers out of desperation, Sothalante became an important part of Koth's emperor Strabonus' government. This earned him a reputation as a Kothian wizard whose mention was enough to scare children. Sothalante's cruelty trembled the whole of Koth, and he was considered the real ruler of the city. Lanti is the main villain of Howard's story, The Scarlet Citadel, where the fortress serves as his residence, containing unspeakable horrors and huge dungeons filled with terrifying creatures, including his huge snake, Satha. Rumors have it that Sothalante kept young boys in his court and performed gruesome experiments on them. In this tale, Lanti plots with the kings of Koth and Amloris, namely Strabonus and Ophir, in order to trick Conan. Ophir lies to Conan that he needs his help against an invading Kothian army. Conan soon realizes that he's been trapped by the two emperors who have joined hands with the vile sorcerer, Sothalante. He loses a chunk of his Aquilonian army and ends up getting imprisoned in the Scarlet Citadel. Conan somehow manages to free a former rival of Lanti, Peleus, who helps him escape the dungeon and finally defeat Sothalante. With endless magic spells up his sleeve, Sothalante is a remorseless necromancer excelling in dark magic. It's said that he had an entire library with books bound in skin flayed from live victims. Though Sothalante had no new story arcs in the Marvel Universe, his character appeared in Marvel renditions of the Scarlet Citadel. Yara. A sorcerer and priest of evil forces, Yara lived in the Tower of the Elephant in the city of Aranjun in Zamora. He was introduced as a tall skeletal man with cold eyes in 1933 in Howard's short story, The Tower of the Elephant. When Yara was young, he came across an elephant-headed alien, Yag Kosha, from the planet of Yag, and approached him to be his teacher of dark magic. However, Yag, being a good-hearted being, taught him white magic but refused to impart his dark knowledge to Yara. Driven by fiendish ambition, Yara enslaved and tormented Yag Kosha for centuries using fire and the wheel of torture, upon which Yag finally revealed his secrets of necromancy. Yara even forced Yag to build the Elephant Tower, and to keep him subservient, he maimed and blinded Yag Kosha. The tower was feared by all, knowing it was the home to a horrendous wizard. With ivory floors, a golden ceiling, walls of green jade, and bloodstones on the door, this tower was a nightmarish building. Yara drew his power from a mystical jewel, the heart of the elephant, which practically kept him immortal. But in the Hyborian Age, Yara appeared to have lost his prime and mostly remained in drug-induced sleep. It's said that back in his golden days, he turned a prince into a spider and smushed him. Conan, who was a thief in Zamora back then, learned about the Forbidden Tower and the precious stone from a thief in the mall. He then broke into the tower to steal the heart of the elephant, but moved by Yag's miserable fate, Conan freed him from his agony and used his blood to strengthen the heart of the elephant. Yara then got trapped within the jewel and was destroyed by the revived spirit of Yag Kosha. Namira! An arrogant and vindictive sorcerer, Namira appears in the short story The Dark Eidolon by Clark Ashton Smith. The story was first published in Weird Tales in 1935 and was set on the fictional continent of Zothique. Once known as Narthos, Namira was a beggar boy in the capital city of Xylac, Umeos. He was almost crushed to death by Prince Zotula's horses and then left the city. Namira willingly became a wizard student and made his own pact with Poseidon, lord of the seven hells and god of earthly evil. Despite attaining a name as a powerful and feared sorcerer, Namira is obsessed with his revenge against Zotula, who is now the monarch of Xylac. When Poseidon refuses to help him defeat the king, Namira joins hands with a deadlier entity, Thamagorgos, lord of the abyss. In order to antagonize Zotula, Namira sends phantom horses to haunt the king's palace and lets loose a horde of skeleton-like mummies to capture Zotula and his mistress and bring them to him. He then tortures them in a chamber filled with corpses and demons and evokes Thamagorgos, who destroys the entire city. Intriguingly, Poseidon grants Zotula the power to overthrow Namira, who then slips down the slopes of insanity. Cathalos! Another creation of Robert E. Howard's 1929 novella, Skull-Faced, Cathalos is a revived dark wizard. Often known as Scorpion by his followers, Cathalos was the high priest of a secret worldwide cult based in North Africa. Skullface, Son of the Ocean, and Master are some of his other names. Curiously, when H.P. Lovecraft wrote his tale, The Whisperer in Darkness, he wrote to Howard that he had plans to use Cathalos in some dark reference. Cathalos has a fascinating background in some extended story arcs. He was discovered in stasis in a floating coffin along the Senegal coast before a German scientist, von Lorfmann, discovered it and declared it to be thousands of years old. Interestingly, even prior to the awakening of Cathalos, an ancient Egyptian prophecy circulated all over the African continent that predicted the emergence of a man from the sea who would conquer and rule the entire world. This prediction, along with his knowledge of science, helped Cathalos to extend his influence beyond Africa and establish a huge fan base, all of whom were turned into members of the Scorpion cult. Under the banner of Marvel, Cathalos was like a moving humanoid head stuck within a giant Venus flytrap. With teleportation skills and the ability to call forth demons, Cathalos' main goal was to attack Doctor Strange at the command of Schumagorath. Kulan Gath! Kulan Gath was a dark wizard who first appeared as Conan's villain in issues 14 through 15 of Conan the Barbarian as a creature of pure evil bent on dominating the world. Gath was subsequently incorporated into the Marvel Universe and turned up in X-Men comics, facing off against characters like Professor X and Caliban. Dynamite Entertainment also employed the character in 2006 after it obtained the rights to Red Sonja. There, he appeared in the form of an old priest clad in gray robes, golden armlets, and decorative shoulder pads. His dark brown skin made him look like an ancient zombie with a wicked smile and burning eyes. Kulan Gath existed during the Hyborian age of Conan. He sought the devilish power of Schumagorath by marrying marrying the Witch Queen of Hyboria named Vamatar, who allegedly possessed Schumagorath's iron-bound books. The pair then proceeded to battle Conan and Red Sonja and were defeated in the end. Gath was practically immortal since he hid his life force within a magical amulet, and killing him would mean destroying the amulet. When Conan defeated him, Red Sonja slit his heart out, but Gath was able to resurrect himself. And mind you, this wasn't the only time Gath revived himself. He's cheated death many times and come back to life. In the contemporary era, Gath traveled to New York to retrieve his magical pendant from a museum. This was followed by various showdowns between Gath and legendary Avengers, including Doctor Strange and even Spider-Man. He had amazing abilities, including creating illusions, controlling minds, and possessing bodies. In one instance, he even took over the Avengers' minds. Gath could warp reality and play with time. He could also command demons at will and had only one wish in the modern age: to make the new world into a Hyborian planet.
Even as He-Man himself bears witness to it.
Skeletor. The most dangerous warlock on Eternia, Skeletor is the primary antagonist of the Masters of the Universe series and is the arch-rival of He-Man. His only mission is to gather the secrets of Castle Grayskull, the central fortress in the franchise. Skeletor believed this would make him powerful enough to conquer all of Eternia and become the master of the universe. And obviously, He-Man foiled his plan again and again, making their confrontation pivotal in the lore. This blue-skinned, skull-faced sorcerer originally appeared as a devious entity from a different dimension, an origin often questioned after Hordak was revealed to be Skeletor's previous mentor. That meant that Skeletor may have been He-Man's uncle, the brother of King Randor. It was the 2002 animated series He-Man and the Masters of the Universe that relaunched Skeletor as a menacing villain. Debuting in 1981 in He-Man and the Power Sword, Skeletor went ahead to appear in several animated shows and even a live-action movie, Masters of the Universe, in 1987. He's also the main villain of the 2021 He-Man show on Netflix. Skeletor possesses a wide range of dark magical powers, including transportation, as we can see in the Filmation series, where he instantly transports himself to Snake Mountain. He generally carries a mystical weapon, the Havoc Staff, which is basically a long pole with a replica of a ram's skull. The Havoc Staff allows him to charge magical energies, but interestingly, Skeletor can also emit energy beams from his own body. Remember the 1987 film where he shoots lightning beams from his hand? In various comic miniseries, Skeletor gets hold of one half of the Power Sword and displays other skills like opening portals to other dimensions. He's not only a master necromancer, he's also adept in physical combat and has quite a bit of scientific know-how. Schumagorath. Known for being an infamous antagonist of Doctor Strange, as well as my main in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Schumagorath is an ancient alien entity holding vast magical abilities, including shapeshifting, using its tentacles and eyes to project energy beams and balls, and destroying entire galaxies to warp reality. This creature is virtually immortal and has levitation powers. Schumagorath is deeply entangled with Howard's stories, and the name of the character was taken from his work, The Curse of the Golden Skull, where a dying magician tries to evoke the powers of an iron-bound book by Schumagorath. The character first appeared in issue 10 of Marvel Premiere in 1973. Created by Frank Bruner and Steve Englehart, Schumagorath is a member of the Great Old Ones, a race of primordial, otherworldly beings. Having rubbery, damage-resistant skin, this demon can also use telepathy to communicate and is known by several other titles, including the Lord of Chaos and Father of all Evil. Often depicted as a godlike giant monster with one eye, Schumagorath's practically limitless powers to mess with the multiverse put it on the same level as other galactic forces like Dormammu and Mephisto. Marvelous verdict! Alright guys, that's all we got for you today. Be it skull-faced wizards or serpent-worshipping sorcerers, these villains have shaped the very foundation of the sword and sorcery genre, and along with it, a whole bunch of pop culture. From Tothamon's twisted tricks to Schumagorath's celestial powers, these evil beings create something more than just magic spells. They challenge universal laws and haunt readers for generations. Whether you're Conan the Barbarian or Doctor Strange, a dark enemy always helps the hero shine even brighter. Who do you think's the most formidable sorcerer on this list? Let us know in the comments down below who you think it is and why. Also, if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.